Hey y'all, it's Laura and I'm back with Scrap Madness. Now this is a cut file from Virginia Walker over at Confessions of a Paper Addict. She does have an Etsy store, but she also has a Facebook group of the same name and has a bunch of free cut files, and this is one of them. I decided I was going to go ahead and follow her lead and use this cut file to do a string art style background for my photos. Now at Scrap Madness, we have a guest designer today, and I'm really excited by today's guest designer. Kat Martin is joining Miranda and I, and we are very, very excited by that. Kat is one of the people we both really enjoy watching on YouTube and have for quite a while, so I am so glad she is joining us. I'm just giving you kind of a peek at the randomness and the crazy way I am stitching this. I'm doing some X's and then adding in extra lines. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it. It's not intended to look very clean like string art does. It looks a little crazy, but the overall shape is the point. I am using this really cool Doris branded thread that has multiple colors woven into it. So I didn't have to switch threads. This is all from one skein of thread. I have this really sweet photo of my grandma who recently passed away, and I thought I would do a 2-page layout about her passing. And so what I'm doing is I'm just looking through the 6x6 paper pad to fill in the heart for the background, and then I'm just going to embellish away. This layout is kind of the first page or feature page of the 2-page spread. The way I typically do 2-page spreads is I have a feature page that's usually a bit more detailed and artsy looking and generally has 1 to 2 photos. And then I do a second page that has several photos and is often in a grid format, because I do love a grid format. It's just a great way to get a lot of photos on the page without it looking crazy. It just looks very controlled. It looks like it's very intentional. So I am going to go ahead and trim off just a very thin amount of this paper, because as you can see, there's not a huge area for a border here, but I really wanted to do a nice dark border, and I had cut out this paper for another layout and purposely gutted it so that I could use the border. It was just great for that. I'm going to use some of these pocket page cards that I had put in my kit, which I built completely from my stash. So definitely check out that playlist. I'll have it in the description box below for you. And this month I am endeavoring to use up at least some of my Indigo Hills 2 collection that I bought mid-year last year and really loved. Didn't touch it at all for almost a year now. And so I decided I'm gonna go ahead and break it out and just use some of it. So I'm piecing together little bits and pieces. I've got a couple of journaling cards there. I've got a doily. I've got a ticket that was in the ephemera pack. I've got a tag, which doesn't get to stay, but I considered for a while. There's a leftover cardstock sticker that I had cut out and considered that as well, just because it was purple. I was really focusing on a monochromatic layout. I did this a little earlier last week with yellow, and I decided it would look really cool to try it in purple because my grandma did like the color purple. I'm not sure if it was her favorite color, but I did see her wear it a lot. And so I kind of decided that must be a color she really liked. So I decided to go ahead and use purple on this layout. So I'm really trying to create a very old school scrapbook vibe by this layering, because my grandma actually was a memory keeper. She had some of the old style scrapbooks, and I mean old style scrapbooks, and there was often things like this very vintage look with just random ephemera from life involved in that. I did want to give this layout kind of a vintage feel without going too vintage, because my grandma was definitely old school. She was a Southern lady. She was very genteel, I think, and even though she served in the military, she was always coming across as being a bit strict, but at the same time, very much a caregiver for everyone else around us. And so it was interesting to see that mix, that you see a little bit of that military background. At the same time, you would see her just drop everything to help someone else out. And when I get to my journaling, you will see a lot of journaling on this page, because I talk a little bit about that. I talk a little bit about her tendency to be that quiet helper, to be that person who didn't want attention for it, but would absolutely step up and help anyone, anytime. I've brought in a few ephemera pieces. This first one is a moments mean more than things, or something along that line, and I thought that was perfect. My grandma was a very frugal person. It's just who she was. It's how she grew up, and she followed that all the way through her life. Her and my grandpa were very frugal people, and I think that is something that I need to learn how to do. I think my generation could learn a lot from that is for sure. Now I've gone over to this vine. This white vine is part of my product focus for the month, which is to use up as much trim and twine and ribbon and things like that as I can this month. So I've decided to tape and glue this all the way around the center of the heart, kind of create a border around that center heart. It just felt a little too plain, and I wanted to add some texture to this page, and I really wanted to add some of this vine somewhere. Now I do end up adding a strip of that vine at the bottom of the layout as well, just kind of balance it out, because the top feels so heavy with the broad part of the heart. Because it's white on white, it's very subtle, and it doesn't add a ton to the page. It's just a little added texture that in person gives it so much detail, but at the same time doesn't draw attention away from my photo. Now, as you notice, not only did I do monochromatic with just purples, but I've also done a black and white photo. Now, the purpose for the black and white photo in this case is because when you get older, your skin is not necessarily in the nicest condition sometimes. And I think turning photos of older folks black and white sometimes help them to look a little clearer, to look their best selves. And I always want to do that. I always want to present people in my album as their best selves, especially in a memorial type of layout. So in this case, I turned it black and white just to show her absolute best self. And also, I think that doing grandparent photos in black and white is kind of a nice homage to how their life was. They didn't necessarily only have black and white photos, but older style photos did look better in black and white. And so I know looking through her albums, she had quite a few from her childhood, especially in black and white. And I thought that was a nice little moment for her layout as well. So adding this trim, as you can see, not a huge difference, and it doesn't take away from the photo. It also speaks quite nicely to the paper I chose to go in the center of the heart, because it has kind of a vine effect on it as well. Just going to add the last little piece here, and I did kind of break it up. I cut off smaller pieces behind the photo, so I didn't have to try to turn on the angle with that vine, which would have been very clunky and probably too thick. So keep that in mind if you're trying to do this technique. Just make sure that you're very careful going around the heart, and if you need to cut it into pieces, you can do that. It's white on white, very forgiving if you decide to cut it instead of just trying to wrap it, because that was kind of tricky. So now I'm grabbing little bits and pieces from my ephemera pack, which was just in this little tray that I keep on my desk, and then I'm going to bring in some of these really cute little vines, and I decided to grab these chipboard hearts out of that little container and then put these clear sticker vines behind them. And because my background is white, clear stickers are beautiful on white paper. And so if you're using a white background, definitely consider finding a way to use clear stickers. I've used these on a couple of layouts now, and I really like them. They're very easy to pop behind hearts, behind florals, behind anything really, and it just adds a nice little sprig, if you will, a little bit of foliage in the background, and I really like that. So I'm going to add those in 3 places around my photo. So I'm bringing in that black from the black and white photo into the layout in a more dramatic way. And eventually I will bring in another color, but this starts out as very monochromatic. And the only reason I brought in another color was because I felt like it was getting a little dark. So I did brighten it up with some yellow a little later on, but not a lot, just little touches of yellow. I'm also adding some of these black heart clear stickers around the other chipboard stickers, just as a little detail. And then I'm going to bring in this puppy sticker that says Happy Thoughts, which I thought was appropriate for a memorial page, first of all, but secondly, it was also purple. And I'm trying to use up a lot of the purple things from this kit because I don't have a lot of photos that I can use with purple, and a lot of the photos on the opposite side of this page do have purple because, like I said, she wore purple a lot. And so I'm very excited to get to do a purple 2-page spread. That's very exciting for me. I do love purple, and I am so excited to see it showing up in more scrapbooking collections lately. Also, just want to let you know that I do have a Pinterest page. I have had some people ask how they can save my layouts to look at later as inspiration. I pin all of the layouts that I make here on YouTube, and I have Instagram as well. Those links are always in the description as well. The last element of this layout is going to be a little border around the heart, which is going to be my journaling. And I love to do this. I do it fairly often in my layouts, and it's a great way to add a lot of journaling without taking up a great deal of space on your layout. Is it difficult to read? Not really, but that's not the point. My journaling is there mostly for me. My kids don't often read the journaling, and that's fine, but it's really there mostly for me and just expressing those thoughts. I'm going to add in some splattering with some Heidi Swapp Color Shine in gold and in butter. And here's where I realize that some pops of yellow are needed on the layout. So I add just a little bit more splattering with the yellow around the page. As you can see, I have a floral underneath the photo that is yellow, and that was what inspired me to bring in a little bit more yellow just to brighten up the page a tiny bit. And how do I do that? With these little enamel hearts. They're a very small detail, a very small touch of purple and yellow that I'm adding around the page, but these little scattering details add so much. So that's it, guys. Make sure you check out Kat Martin and Miranda Weber, and their links are in the description box below. Have a great day, and until next time, bye!